Hi, my name's Dave Harvey. I am the Regional Chair of the Institute for Outdoor Learning's Northwest region. I also have some other hats in terms of I'm self-employed in the outdoor learning sector and sort of consultancy, training, research sort of fields. As part of my role with the IOL, I also sit on the Land and Nature Skills Sector steering group, representing the Institute for Outdoor Learning and the wide range of jobs that incorporates. I'm based in Windermere, but my work takes me across the whole of the UK. So I'm working currently on projects in Scotland and England, and I've been working on one in Wales as well. So I'm very much out and about around the place, depending on what the project is. I've spent some time trying to work out how to describe where I fit in the world. And I imagine they're sort of one of those maps of dots linked by lines, right? And those are the institutions or the organisations and things. And I operate in the spaces in between. And I think I've got a focus, and my focus is improving the quality of what's delivered in an outdoor learning capacity, so facilitated, planned, purposeful practice. So improving the quality, but also improving the way that helping that access thing. How do people get it so that they can access this, so that it's a genuine choice, so that after that, when if we move beyond say a school visit to a centre, it's like, well, how do you continue those things? It's no good just saying, well, there's a climbing wall down the road, or there's a public footpath, because there are big barriers to actually accessing that footpath, which is nothing to do with, it could be just out the door. So I think I've got two strands. One is improving quality, and the other one is improving the way and the mechanisms that people access so that it becomes a genuine choice. And I think that anything that's based around consultancy, research, training that does that, that's where I'm interested. That's my space. So the conference is a vehicle for bringing practitioners, providers of outdoor learning together. It offers a range of, the way we do it is we offer a range of different workshops, keynotes, things like that enable people to get a different view of the sector, because the IOL represents a sector that is very broad. It's not just one specific thing, such as outdoor centres or a particular way of doing something. It is all aspects of outdoor learning, so multiple approaches, multiple ways of doing it, multiple client groups. Often we don't see those. We tend to work in our own little organisations or our own little bubbles in a way. So to be able to interact with those other aspects not only makes it clear in terms of where you might fit into that bigger picture, but also offers opportunities to talk to other people and make connections, which ultimately is going to lead to better outcomes for the people we work with. So the conference gives us that space to come together and that place to be able to experience these things and to actually meet, talk, get inspired, learn new stuff, share stuff. So in terms of the benefits beyond that then, it's a Northwest region. Looking specifically at the local area, a lot of the people in this room will be engaging with this local area in multiple ways. The centre itself is in this region. So in terms of the Arnside and Silverdale national landscape, obviously the centre, Caste Head, is within that broad catchment area, and so the people that are coming to the conference work within this area. They work further afield, but they bring people to the area as well. So to be able to develop the skills and knowledge beyond what they already have is only going to benefit the young people, the adults, whoever it is that's coming in that we're working with, but it's also then going to benefit by extension the communities that are working with the landscapes, because the opportunities that are created out of the conversations and the training and the skills development that happens in a place like this. So my career's been in outdoor learning. So I started as a trainee instructor, filling time, and then discovered that actually it was something that I enjoyed immensely and seemed to have a sort of aptitude for it. So I became a teacher. I did a PGCE in Bangor, outdoor learning, outdoor education PGCE, and that took me into school and then into outdoor education centres, where I remained for nearly 30 years, and then I've subsequently done a PhD in outdoor learning, and then latterly I've now got my own business, consultancy, training, research. And then that wider engagement is why I've been with the IOL since 2005, so 20 years, and I believe passionately in what it does and how it represents the wider field. So the role I've got now, this particular chair role, is because it means something to me to be able to bring something back to that, to give back into the sector that I've got a lot from. There is a very traditional view of outdoor learning in some quarters that is the outdoor education view, that it's about climbing and canoeing and the sort of traditional outdoor pursuits. Outdoor learning is actually about facilitated, purposeful, planned experiences in the outdoors, and it can have multiple benefits for multiple different groups. And what may be right for one group might involve adventurous activities. For another group, it might be connection to nature through the landscape. So there's different ways of doing things. There are also approaches that will take in therapy, take in skills development for careers, will take in community development or personal and social development, multiple different ways of doing things. The sector in Cumbria has because of the nature of the landscape, there are a lot of local authority outdoor education centres and their own businesses and own outdoor education centres scattered around the Lake District, and more broadly Cumbria. But there is also a real mix in Cumbria of culture and how the outdoors is valued from a population level. So some parts of Cumbria, the outdoors is seen as somewhere for other people to go and do. And when it's not the culture, that doesn't provide an avenue for progression into the sector. And the sector, be it this sector, be it the farming, be it countryside management, whatever it might be, if that isn't valued within a community or within a society, it's hard to break out of that and to then become it. So there are barriers that are cultural ones. There are barriers in terms of provision. So for example, in Cumbria on the west coast, the outdoor learning opportunities are much less than they are within the middle of the Lake District. So we have differences that operate within the county itself, depending on whereabouts you are and what the history is. So those barriers exist before we get to things like money, before we get to transport. So having a college course in Kendal for outdoor education, which exists, which is brilliant, that's very difficult if you live in Workington and you're 16. So there are real practical barriers about how you can access training, about how you can access work opportunities, because the centres are small. There aren't like, oh, we'll take 10 apprentices. Those don't exist. So how do we end up with a career progression, or even people coming in at the start to experience it? That requires a lot of thought, and it requires a lot of effort and resource to enable it to be an equitable provision and equitable offer. I don't think it would have helped mine, because I have a number of privileges that enabled me to actually find my way through it. The challenges for the people that don't have those privileges. So the privileges I had, being white, I grew up in the North Yorkshire. I didn't grow up in Cumbria, I grew up in North Yorkshire. I came from a background that wasn't an outdoor pursuits thing, but it was like I drifted into it. I did my Duke of Edinburgh's award, for example. That was a significant part of my life. Being able to access things that enable people to find out what's available, I think is critical. But then not just saying, here it is, look what you could do, and then not providing the next step. So it's working on that next step that says, so now this is how we can enable this to happen. If you think that's something for you, then how do we get there? And not just saying, look at what we do. So too many times we put an opportunity on and say, hey, look, we've got these opportunities. And the opportunities might be filled, but they'll be filled with people who have the means and the capabilities to access them. If you haven't got those means, and then multiple different factors that come together intersect, then that's an opportunity, but it's not a real one. And that's what I think we need to work with. We need to work on that boundary. I would like to see, if it was possible, that it could use its position to leverage money or resource to enable that focus to happen on that boundary area, because you've got to create the opportunity. So if the opportunity doesn't exist in the first place, nothing there, so that needs funding, because that's got to be staffed somehow or put on or whatever. Then you've got to put the work in that means that you can help people get from there to there. And if that gap is too big or complicated, it's not going to get bridged. So it's got to involve resource. Now, it might be that LANSS could be a hub and agent in the middle that facilitates connections, and this is like the outdoor partnership in the West Coast. And if there is a way that the outdoor partnership, for example, can be part of LANSS, can be openly working together to do things.